Good morning, guys, and welcome to Happy Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you, always. Year 9, welcome back. It's week 2, and it's great to have you back for another week of online learning. Hopefully you guys had an okay week last week with week 1. I'm sure everyone's up to different places as far as the week goes, but there was the recording from Miss Hafey explaining that we're mainly just working off the booklets. We're in a new topic, the miracle of life, and you're really working it out. The miracle of life is that life is a miracle, right? It is miraculous. The way life just carries on, it goes forward, cells reproduce, like not even whole organisms, but actual cells have a way of making themselves into two. So we covered that last week with mitosis and then meiosis, which is the special thing that happens in sperms for guys and eggs for girls. Special focus on this reproduction system within humans. You did other body systems last year. This year for year 9, the reproductive system in humans is really quite intricate and very well designed, and so basically we get to spend a bit of time on it. Hopefully you've nearly got your way through the end of the first set of work. I know some people have submitted, some people still going. Don't stress about that. But you can see some chromosomes being laid out here. These are some little loose chromosomes that belong to a cell. Chromosomes you focus a little bit more on in the week 2 work. The work was posted this morning at 9 o'clock on the Year 9 Science Google Classroom. So you might notice on the left here with this picture that the chromosomes have all been organised into these nice little piles. That's actually what we call a human karyotype. You will learn about that in the first set of notes that you start to look at in the post that Mr. Fares put up this morning. So a karyotype means sort of like a map of all the chromosomes where we have our genes stored, and genes are made of DNA. Lots of new words to learn, aren't there, in this topic, but this is the biology topic of genetics. Fascinating and, something that's relatively modern for science. We didn't know about this really till the 20th century and onwards, especially DNA with the work of some very important people. Franklin, Wilkins, Watson and Crick particularly were able to get us a picture of what DNA is and understand the structure of it by some very clever mathematics and experimenting. But speaking of experimenting, it's time for you to do some work this week, and you're going to be looking more closely at chromosomes and what they actually are. So we looked at the cell last week and the cell dividing processes, but really these things all happen with the genetic material. That is the material that stores our genes, that stores the information about us, that makes proteins in our bodies, that gives us traits in our bodies. All those bits of information have to be moved very carefully without any deletions or without any rub-outs, right? And the way that they're moved around so carefully is through chromosomes. And you can see here is a little picture from the week 1 file. We did post the week 1 file up for you again because we thought some of you need some more time with it. Such a short week last week, but this is in the week 1 work file. Notice it's a nice little picture map. Chromosome is like a sausage. What it actually is really is all that DNA molecule that's very long DNA. It's very, very long. If we stretch it out, it would go for just hundreds and hundreds of kilometres. But inside the cell, inside the nucleus of every cell, right, material has to coil up really, really tight. Imagine coiling up an extension cord so tight that it fit in the palm of your hand. You couldn't do it, but imagine if you could. That's a bit like what a chromosome is. Really tightly coiled up DNA. And areas on those chromosomes, areas of DNA, a segment of DNA, are called genes. No, we don't mean your blue genes on your body. No, we're talking about a gene is a section of DNA. Now, DNA is made up of these tiny chemical pairs called bases, and a gene might be between 1,000 up to 1,000,000 bases long. They're very different and they're very unique. Genes do something, they code for different traits that go on inside our body, right? For example, you'll learn a little bit about some of the coding that goes on. You'll also learn about what happens in chromosomes if a bit of those genes get missed, or maybe they don't get copied properly, or they get duplicated, etc., etc. So part of the work that you'll look at in this week will be about chromosomal abnormalities or mutations, where we get funny things. You're going to learn about 4 types of those and fill in some work. Don't forget to fill in the work. All you do is go to the assignment file at the top of the Google Classroom, and there's 2 files attached there. They've been assigned to you as an assignment, so you just open the assignment post and you can click to download the Word file. It's just called Miracle of Life Week 2 work. You get it there. Mr. Fares put that together for us because he's a legend. Hi, Mr. Fares. You basically get that file and start to open it and flick through. You'll see all these concepts that I mean. One of the nice examples that gets talked about in that idea of genes copying properly is that it's a bit like photocopying. You know what happens if something gets in the way of a photocopy? It's really messy, right? It's a bad copy, we'd say, and students get a test with a bad photocopy. It's like everyone gets angry and says, "I can't read this periodic table. The writing's blurred. It's not working." It's not very functional, is it? Well, guess what? Genes are a bit like that. There's a special little sequence in the DNA. So DNA has mutations as well. Small areas of DNA that just don't quite work properly. Those things actually code for proteins usually, right? Or particular chemicals. Now, one of the examples in the book is albinism, right? Now, before you ask, albinism isn't the disease of looking like Anthony Albanese. No, haha. It's actually looking a bit like this illustration of the girl on the screen now. This girl is an albino individual, and albinism is an interesting thing. You can read about it in the book, about 3/4 of the way through the document this week. And it involves the coding for a certain protein. The genes that code for it get damaged, or maybe part of they're faulty. They're either deleted or maybe overwritten or wrongly copied. And once that special code is gone, that code would normally have led the body to create an enzyme. And that enzyme works to create and distribute the pigment, like the things that make our skin coloured, that browny colour, whitey brown, or in darker skin people, very dark brown. Well, the albino folks miss the enzyme, so therefore they miss the melanin, and everything is just really bleached, pure white, and often this pinky sort of pigment in the eyes as well. Funnily enough, fun fact about albinism, it's the one of the very few genetic traits that's in all species. So almost many animal species have a version of this genetic mutation called albinism. So hopefully you enjoy learning about that. You'll also learn about some other stuff. There's a nice interactive activity for you to do. The link to it is there. It's actually at the Utah University website, and there's a little interactive for you to actually practice matching up the pairs on DNA, right? So in DNA, it's big, long, twisty helix molecule, double helix, like a spiral staircase, and there are special bases that cross over like ladders, rungs in the ladder. There's 4 bases, so the letters we give for them are A, T, C, and G. You need to look up and fill in the notes with the missing words in there by referring to the answer booklets and others. But you will do this exercise from Utah to practice and make sure you understand how DNA is built together and how the order of those bases is actually it's like our blueprint code for the proteins we need, the traits we want to have in our body, and the hair colour, the colour of my brown, green eyes, all the things about you, height, some aspects of personality even, and it can also include interesting variations and mutations that make you you. So that interactive looks a bit like this. You'll see on the left, I'm actually dragging across with my mouse. This base is labelled G, stands for guanine, and guanine is going to match up with cytosine, which is the one C on the left. So I'm dragging the purple on the left across to C. It will lock in, and it's actually showing you on the right-hand side of the screen, you can't see it on your view right now, that we're actually building up matched pairs. So one half of DNA can have a whole set of pairs, and the body knows to insert the matching opposite base with that existing strand, right? So G goes with C and A with T always. That's the way the body does it. So fascinating, but also look into the interesting stuff about mutations and the way different changes in those things can create unusual changes. And also just interesting variations, eye colour variations, for example. Another interesting little look on the chromosomal side. This is another picture of a karyotype. Remember, a karyotype's just a map of all the chromosomes of human body, but laid out in photographs. So these can actually be photographed and done using the microscope, and they use often white blood cells to replicate and draw out the chromosomes. They photograph them at high magnification. And you'll notice there's a little yellow box around the bottom to right. People who've seen genes before, or chromosomes before will recognise what they are. In a human, those last two are called the sex chromosomes, and by sex we mean gender. So it says they're labelled very close. If you look in close, it says X and Y. So this karyotype is for a male. So they carry one X and one Y chromosome. Now those chromosomes come from each one of their parents. So depending on the mix, this is why it's always a lottery as to whether your new baby is going to be a boy or a girl, and how exciting that is. But you're going to look at a couple of, interesting changes and disorders that involve the sex chromosomes. There's one in females called Turner syndrome, and there's one in guys that's got a whole section in your booklet file called Klinefelter's syndrome, which involves just an unusual body type, and the males who have this one have an extra chromosome in that, extra Y chromosome in that karyotype. So they've got one too many, and it leads to that body type thing, and sadly it leads them to be infertile. They can't have children of their own. And one of the other things you guys will take a look at will be the actual sex cells that we have. So you'll see on this picture here, there's an egg cell on the left, and a sperm cell on the right, one for girls, one for guys. But we look at the morphology, you'll be labelling some diagrams. But, we've got very wonderful, unique cell types for carrying genetic information, because I guess you could say it's one of the most important systems for survival, right? That we carry our genes forward, that good traits, that they're healthy, helpful traits that we possess will pass over to children. That involves all the genes getting passed between a parent and the child. And the way we do that is this clever fertilization process, and the sperm carries genetic material, chromosomes and genes. The egg already has genetic material, chromosomes and genes. So when they come together, a miracle happens, the miracle of life, and we have a unique individual with combined chromosomes. You're going to learn some more about that. Okay, so that's about enough for us for the week. So guys, all the very, very best to the rest of you for this week, for the Year 9 Science. Don't forget, get in touch with your teacher. Best time is during the timetabled lessons. So when you normally have your lessons, don't sort of wander around. Be with your teacher on their Google Classroom when the lessons are on. You should be doing that for other subjects too. Don't drift across. It's important you be on time, because teachers need to have access to you. We need to know how you're going. Also, we also need to be able to see your work. So remember, by Friday, 3 o'clock, you should have uploaded week 2's file. Do your very, very best. If you need a bit more time, or it's going, not going well, just don't suffer on your own. Get in touch with your teacher, okay? Ask your questions, post some comments and questions, or with Mr. Faroes and myself, and we're happy to help you. Don't forget, the resource files are all there, okay? There's an answer file there to help you with week 2 or week 1 if you're still finishing. And some interesting things in there to do. But importantly, make sure you've edited your document before you attach it. You upload it onto your classroom assignment, the one that was posted today, and then hit the button turn in. Please do not hand in blank documents. They're super painful, and it tends to clutter and waste a bit of time. So just make sure your work's the completed file, not the blank one. All right, guys, and of course, follow your teacher's directions. If they want you to submit documents another way as well, just follow their directions. The same document, doesn't matter. Your teacher will be looking at your work anyway. All right, everybody, and one last very important thing to say again, which is Happy Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. Hey, you're still here. You stayed till the end. Well done, because this is the extra deleted scene that wasn't included in the first part of the movie. Yes, we have a small video to show you on chromosomes. You can access this online as well, but hey, we thought we'd drop it in here. Special one for Star Wars Day.
What is a chromosome? To solve problems that explain and predict traits and variations, we first have to understand cells. All living organisms are composed of cells. Cells work like little factories doing all the jobs inside your body that are needed to keep your body functioning. Your body is made up of many different kinds of cells, such as skin cells, muscle cells, and nerve cells. Some cells look like squashed bricks, some look like donuts, and many have irregular shapes. However, every cell, no matter what its job, has the same basic parts. All human cells have an outer border that's the boundary of the cell, called the cell membrane. A liquid material called cytoplasm is inside the cell membrane, and there's a large structure suspended in the cytoplasm called the nucleus. The nucleus is the part of a cell that contains the genetic information. The nucleus is surrounded by a nuclear membrane that, like the cell membrane, makes a boundary around the nucleus. Now let's explore chromosomes. Chromosomes are thread-like structures located inside the nucleus of animal and plant cells. Each chromosome is made of protein and a single molecule of deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA. Passed from parents to offspring, DNA contains the specific instructions that make each type of living creature unique. The term chromosome comes from the Greek words for color, chroma, and body, soma. Scientists gave this name to chromosomes because they are cell structures, or bodies, that are strongly stained by some colorful dyes used in research. So what do chromosomes actually do? The unique structure of chromosomes keeps DNA tightly wrapped around spool-like proteins called histones. Without such packaging, DNA molecules would be too long to fit inside cells. For an organism to grow and function properly, cells must constantly divide to produce new cells to replace old, worn-out cells. During cell division, it's essential that DNA remains intact and evenly distributed among cells. Chromosomes are a key part of the process that ensures DNA is accurately copied and distributed in the vast majority of cell divisions.